Have you noticed recently a lot of green algae on the lake you live on? Hey guys, today we're going to be learning about a current problem on our planet right now, which is water pollution. Well, this water right here, hopefully it's drinkable, right? Tastes good. Pieces of garbage, invisible chemicals, and many other pollutants end up in our planet's freshwater system. Water pollution, as well as drought and an exponential growth in our population here on the Earth, has created a freshwater crisis. 70% of the surface of the Earth is water, and only 2.5% of that is freshwater. And only 1% of that 2.5 is actually accessible. The other 1.5% are in glaciers. Water pollution is near impossible to prevent nowadays, but I guess it is possible. But I don't see a solution in the near future. But stay tuned at the end of this video, I'll be sharing a couple of solutions with you to help prevent and reduce water pollution. So there are many different types of water pollution. We've got thermal pollution, we've got chemical pollution, we've got organic waste and disease-causing pollution. Many different types of pollution. We have organic chemical pollution and inorganic chemical pollution. Some examples of organic chemical pollution are pesticides and herbicides, oil, grease, and detergents. Some examples of inorganic chemical pollution are fertilizers, acid, rain, and salts. Let's see if I have salt. It says salt on it, so I'm guessing it's salt. Now let's talk a bit about thermal pollution. Factories and power plants around rivers and lakes take in some of the water to use for their production, and then they send it back into the lakes. But in this process, the temperature of the water can change to be whatever temperature, to be a higher temperature. This changes the temperature in lakes, rivers, or just the freshwater system in general. This mimics the warm season at the wrong times of year, which confuses fish to thinking that it's spawning season, even though it actually isn't, and it's the middle of winter. It just generally messes up the life cycle of aquatic organisms. Also, when factories and power plants put all that water back into the water sources, it sends back in some debris and stuff like that, which is also water pollution, which we don't want in our water sources. This can also lead to eutrophication and less oxygen in our water source. Also, the rise in temperature in water sources from global warming is also considered thermal pollution. So I just mentioned something called eutrophication. So what exactly is eutrophication? Eutrophication is that green algae that you are finding in the lake that you live on. Too much phosphorus and phosphates that are found in detergents, fertilizers, and other stuff like that in freshwater.
Detergents Tide is the sponsor of this video.
Just kidding. You're the one who puts the detergents and soaps and stuff in the freshwater systems, because you're the one who uses Tide and put it in your washing machine, and then it goes down the drain and goes into the sewage and then ends up in the freshwater systems. Eutrophication is an excessive amount of nutrients in the water. So a lot of algae grows, nutrients being the phosphate. Also, lakes with so much algae, they're also called dead lakes because there are dead fish there, because eutrophication also creates less oxygen and less sunlight to get to the aquatic organisms underneath all that algae, which kills the lake. And all this is caused because of the detergents and soaps you use and fertilizers that you use every day to make your lawn look nice and your clothes clean. These drain into the lakes, that lake out there, which causes all that green algae that you are complaining about. Also, I just want to note, this Tide is actually good because it actually has zero phosphorus in it, as it says right there somewhere. Contains no phosphate. Whenever I show this, I don't actually mean it. I mean like any detergents, okay? Not just Tide. So let's continue with the types of water pollution. Organic waste. Adding organic substances that aren't usually there is also considered water pollution, like adding animal poop waste and sewage that isn't usually in water sources. That causes problems and is considered water pollution. It's considered water pollution because it is not supposed to be there. Disease-causing organisms are basically bacteria, and bacteria is essential for life. There are good bacteria and there are bad bacteria. This can be bacteria that comes from, sewage and waste. Bacteria can cause diseases and stuff in animals and cause deaths in animals as well, but they can also be transferred to humans if we drink this water that is contaminated by these disease-causing organisms, and that is not good. Some water pollution causes are discharges from factories, spills and leaks from oil pipeline, not this type of oil obviously, littering of plastic waste, fertilizers, pesticides, herbicides, pet waste, and bad water treatment in drinking water, and finally toxic chemicals from anywhere. All this stuff can roll through the ground and enter our water system, or enter our waterways, whatever you want to call it. My notes say waterways. Guys, plastic is a big problem on our planet right now. There's so much plastic in our waterways, in our oceans, etc. And I'm not going to go into very much detail about that because this is more about water pollution, even though plastic is considered water pollution. Here's an infographic right here. It's also in the description below if you want to download it or whatever, about plastic waste. It's an infographic that I created by myself, and it's there if you want to access it. Can we tell if a body of water is polluted? Like, is that body of water polluted? I don't know, but you can tell me because I have some tips for figuring out whether a body of water is polluted. And I'm not necessarily talking about a toilet, I'm actually talking about lakes and rivers. Well, one way you can determine whether a body of water is polluted is, well, if you just guess, chances are it is polluted, but here are some ways that you can tell. If the water is murky with a lot of algae in it and it's just really gross and there's a lot of debris in it, then that is a big indicator that that water is polluted. Also, if there's like a weird smell, a weird odor in the air, like it smells like something's rotting or somebody just pooped, then that is also quite a big indicator that that water is not safe to drink and that it is polluted. Another indicator is, like, for example, if you're fishing and you're not catching very many fish and you notice that there are like a bunch of dead ones, then that's a big indicator that the water is polluted and that those fish cannot live there anymore. Also, if there are dead plants and stuff around the body of water or in the body of water that are starting to die, that is a big indicator that the body of water that you are looking at is polluted. This next indication isn't really visible to the eye, but if you're a scientist and there's a lot more bacteria in the water, a lot more than normal, then, well, you shouldn't try to drink the water because it is definitely polluted. So you can ask yourself, when it comes to bacteria, what bacteria are present and how much of that bacteria are present? There are some not very nice bacteria that you definitely do not want to encounter, and some of them are, let me look at my notes here, typhoid, which actually has 150,000 deaths annually, cholera, forgive me about the pronunciation, which has 100,000 deaths annually, hepatitis, which I bet you in this whole video so far there have been at least 10, if not more deaths, 2 deaths from hepatitis B every minute. And the last one, or the last main one, is dysentery, which has over 1 million deaths annually. So you don't really want to encounter those because you could die. There are 2 different names for water pollution sources: a point source and a non-point source. Point source is where pollution is directly occurring and affecting a specific location. And the effects are much more severe at the point where the pollution actually enters the water. Some examples of a point source pollution are waste disposal and oil tanker leaks. A non-point source, however, is where pollution begins at a certain spot and travels and affects other location with widespread effects, and it is usually also repeated. Some examples of a non-point pollution source are runoffs from farms, like fertilizers, and from you and your house, your sewage, your detergents. What are the effects of water pollution? The fertilizers, the detergents, and soaps that you use, I don't know, maybe you're washing your car or something, run down your driveway into the sewage system or go down your drain into the sewage system, which eventually makes it down into the freshwater system, which we do not want because that is considered water pollution. These substances contain substantial amounts of nitrogen and phosphorus, which can lead to eutrophication, which I already talked about, so rewind the video if you want to learn more. This has economical effects on humans as well. It can cause rashes. It can cause less tourism because of a foul smell and an ugly look when you look at a lake and it's all green instead of, I don't know, water, blue, from the eutrophication. And eutrophication is also harmful to infants as well. Here's another effect. 2 billion people on the earth drink water that is contaminated by feces, which can transmit dangerous diseases into people. So what can we do to reduce the amount of water pollution there is? Well, we can all do our part. We can all get real angry and make restrictions for industry and agriculture to not pour pollutants into our fresh waterways. There are also scientists working on pollution cleanup, but for that we just need to be patient and wait. Unless you want to be a part of it, then you can be, I guess. Another way you can help is by disposing of your oils and paints and other toxic products properly. Also, to reduce pollution and eutrophication is to use phosphite-free detergents, such as Tide. Tide is a phosphite-free detergent, so I recommend Tide. The only thing is that it comes in a giant plastic container. And what do you do with this plastic container once you're done with it? I don't know. I don't think you keep it. Also, if you simply just wash your car at a commercial car wash, then there'll be less water pollution, because commercial car washes actually have to dispose of that water and soap properly. They can't just let it go in the sewage. Also, just be aware what you're putting down your sink. Don't just dump a bunch of, detergents into your sink, and get on your hands, because what you put down the drain ends up in your river and freshwater systems.
Hello.